once again, comic fans and collectors. Thanks for tuning in to Iconic Keys. Today we're going to take a look at Tomb of Dracula, Issue 10. Tomb of Dracula, Issue 10 gives us the first appearance of Blade, the vampire slayer. In issues 12 through 14, we learn the origin of Eric Brooks, which is Blade's real name. I hope to cover those issues soon in another video. Tomb of Dracula first premiered in April of 1972 and gave us the first appearance of Vlad Tepes, Marvel's incarnation of Dracula. The book saw a total of 70 issues, concluding its run in August of 1979. Marvel's Dracula was created by Jerry Conway and Gene Colan. Marv Wolfman was a co-writer on the title. The Comics Code Authority had prevented vampires from appearing in Marvel Comics for a very long time, but the code was revised in 1971, allowing the characters from literary works to appear in comic books. Dracula premiered shortly after we saw the introduction of Morbius, the living vampire, in Amazing Spider-Man issue 101. Tomb was initially intended to keep its distance from the more superhero-oriented titles that Marvel had at the time. This was done in a belief that the tones of the two different genres would conflict with each other and compromise the integrity of the other's story. Eventually, this sentiment fell by the wayside, of course, as the promise of increased reader interest and sales provided too tempting and gave us our first crossover in Giant-Sized Spider-Man #1. In Doctor Strange Volume 2, Issue 62, we see all vampires, including Dracula, destroyed by a spell from the Book of Darkhold. The spell is known as the Montese Formula. The spell was ultimately reversed by Hydra, and we would once again see Dracula on the prowl in the 90s. In the last 10 years, we've seen him face off against the X-Men, the Incredible Hulk, and even Deadpool. Alright, so let's go ahead and dive into Issue 10 of Tomb of Dracula. Our story opens on the docks of London. Here we find a young couple seeking passage to America, where they can be married, despite the girl's parents' disapproval. The young lovers are attacked by 3 vampires that declare themselves to be part of Dracula's legion. Before they even get a taste of their victim's blood, however, they are attacked by Blade, a vampire hunter armed with wooden knives for dispatching undead bloodsuckers. Blade easily overpowers the creatures, piercing their dark hearts with his knives, staking each of them in turn and killing them instantly. After the encounter, Blade is confronted by Quincy Harker, an elderly chap in a wheelchair, and his daughter, Edith. Quincy scolds Blade for killing the vampires too quickly. He comments that they were Dracula's minions and could have led the vampire hunters directly to Dracula himself. Blade brushes off Quincy's concerns, telling the old vampire hunter that he will hunt by his own methods and will slay Dracula on his own terms, then quickly departs. Our story then shifts to a private yacht that has been chartered by the well-to-do Gabriel Trelane. Trelane is throwing a party on board the ship and has a special surprise this evening for his guests, Count Dracula. Dracula has Trelane under his control and masquerades at the party as nothing more than a descendant of the legendary Count. Dracula spends most of his time at the party charming his guests, as one would expect a true vampiric lord to do. After the party, Dracula retires to his room with his servant, Clifton Graves. Graves inquires as to why the Dark Lord doesn't simply destroy all aboard the ship and be done with it. Vlad, vexed by the question, explains that he intends to exert his will over the influential passengers for some nefarious ends. Soon after, Dracula sees a woman he was speaking with earlier at the party. In need of a quick snack, he lures the woman to a secluded area of the ship and drinks a bit of her blood. Afterwards, he takes the girl to his cabin and tasks Graves with keeping an eye on her till he can return and finish draining her. For now, he has errands to tend to. Dracula first goes to the helm and takes control of the ship after hypnotizing the captain. He then yanks the wheel, causing the ship to lurch violently. Now that he has captured everyone's attention, Dracula reveals his true nature and boasts about how all aboard will soon serve him. One of the guests attempts to shoot Dracula, declaring that nobody takes Martin Scampt anywhere he doesn't want to go. The vampire lord laughs off the pathetic attempt on his life and hurls the man overboard. Dracula then begins demanding that the passengers pledge their undying loyalty to him. While this is going on, Dracula is completely oblivious to the fact that Blade has tracked down the ancient vampire. Blade, who is now apparently fully scuba certified, has managed to make his way to the ship and is now secretly boarding. Back on deck, Dracula's plan goes a bit awry when one of the passengers produces a crucifix and trains it on the vampire. The vampire recoils in pain, allowing a group of passengers to rush him. Meanwhile, back in Dracula's quarters, his intended victim awakens, seemingly in some sort of hypnotic trance due to the supernatural bite inflicted on her earlier. She knocks Clifton Graves unconscious with a bedside lamp and departs the room, seeking her lover. Back topside, Dracula has managed to elude the passengers' attack by dissipating into mist and quickly drifting away from the cross. He then demands that they agree to his ultimatum of loyal servitude or die. Before any can answer, though, Blade arrives on the scene to challenge the schemes of the Dark Lord. The two quickly engage in battle, Dracula rapidly discovering that Blade is quite a skillful warrior. Despite this, Dracula manages to overpower Blade. Before he can deliver a bite, though, he is distracted by his earlier victim, who calls out his name. Clifton Graves follows closely behind the girl, offering apologies for allowing her to escape. Dracula is furious at this, as it has allowed Blade to break free and regain his footing. The vampire throws the girl at Blade and then informs all aboard that he has ordered the entranced captain to plant explosives aboard the ship before transforming into a bat and flying up into the darkness. As Dracula escapes, Blade manages to get all aboard to jump off the ship. When the ship explodes, all the passengers are safely clear of the blast except for Clifton Graves, who is killed in the explosion. Dracula lingers above them momentarily, vowing revenge on Blade, promising a battle in which the vampire killer will not return from. Blade would eventually return to clash with Dracula in several more issues before the end of Tomb of Dracula. Blade would also receive 3 volumes of his own solo title and fight alongside many of Marvel's other heroes. Notably, in the 90s, Blade joined forces with Hannibal King and Frank Drake to form the Night Stalkers during the Rise of the Midnight Suns storyline. The Rise of the Midnight Suns saw the Earth threatened by Lilith, the mother of demons. Doctor Strange discovered this, but was unable to fight Lilith himself directly. He decided to assemble a team which included Blade's Night Stalkers, along with Johnny Blaze and Danny Ketch, who was the Ghost Rider at the time. Together, the group were successfully able to thwart Lilith's attempts to enter our world. The CGC census currently shows that Tomb of Dracula, Issue 10, has 93 copies graded at 5.0, 318 at 8.5, 47 at 9.8, and 1 at a spectacular 9.9. A mid-grade raw copy of Issue 10 will probably set you back around $500 currently. Now that the character is in the MCU, we can certainly expect that that price will climb as this book once again goes into high demand. Until next time, thanks for watching and take care.